Good morning, children. Welcome you all once again. I hope you all are fit and fine. Dear students, today I am going to start the second chapter of your book Flamingo. The chapter name is Lost Spring, the stories of stolen childhood, written by Anis Jung. Students, Anis Jung was born in Rourkela in 1964. Rourkela is a place that is in India. She spent her childhood and adolescence in Hyderabad. Adolescence is a transitional phase of growth and development between childhood and adulthood. Anis Jung received her education in Hyderabad and in the United States of America. Her parents were both writers. Anis Jung began her career as a writer in India. She has been an editor and columnist for major newspapers in India and abroad. Her most noted work, Unveiling India, which was published in 1987, was a detailed chronicle of the lives of women in India. Students, before starting the chapter, I would like to introduce about the chapter or a brief introduction. Actually, the story describes the pitiable condition of poor children who have been forced to miss the joy of childhood due to the socio-economic condition that prevails in this man-made world. The writer gives voice to eliminate child labor by educating the children and to enforce the laws against child labor by government strictly. Students, the call is to end child exploitation and let the children enjoy the day or the days of spring that brings joy under their feet. Students, before starting the chapter, I would like to tell you this chapter is divided into two parts. It is the story of two children. First one is about Sahib Alam, who is a rag picker. So, I am going to start the para of your chapter. The first para is a conversation between the writer and the person or the child Sahib Alam. Sometimes I find a rupee in the garbage. Why do you do this? I ask Sahib, whom I encounter every morning scrounging for gold in the garbage dumps of my neighborhood. Sahib left his home long ago, set amidst the green fields of Dhaka. His name is not even a distant memory. There were many storms that swept away their fields and homes, his mother tells him. That's why they left, looking for gold in the big city where he now lives. Students, encounter is used for meeting or to meet. Scrounging is searching for, amidst is in the middle of. Every morning, the writer sees a young rag picker boy who visits the garbage dump near her house and searches for gold in it. The writer says that he searches for gold, ironically, because although the garbage dumps is full of useless, thrown away things, still his suffers is so minutely as if he will get something as precious as gold from it. The boy's name is Sahib. His home is in Dhaka. It was in the middle of lush green fields. They had left it many years ago and he does not remember it anymore. His mother had told him that there were many storms which destroyed their homes and fields. So they left home and shifted to the cities in search of gold. The writer again says, looking for gold in the big city. Gold here refers to something precious which was not available in their hometown. Things like shoes, money, bags, etc. For the children, and food, clothing, shelter as means of survival for their parents. The boy searches for such precious things in the garbage dumps. One day the writer questions Sahib and asks him the reason for shuffling through the garbage. Then Sahib answers, I have nothing else to do. He mutters, looking away. Mutters means to speak in a low voice or very slow voice. Go to school, I say glibly, realizing immediately how hollow the advice must sound. There is no school in my neighborhood. When they build one, I'll go. If I start a school, will you come? I ask, half joking. Glibly is speaking or spoken in a confident way but without careful or without any thought. Hollow is meaningless or without purpose. Then Sahib replies to the writer that he has nothing else to do other than rag picking. The writer suggests that he should go to school. She realizes that her advice is meaningless for the poor boy. He replies that there are no schools in the area where he lives. He also assures her that he will go to school when one is built near his house. The writer asks him jokingly or in a mood of joke that if she opened a school, would he attend it? Yes, he says, smiling broadly. A few days later, see him running up to me. Is your school ready? It takes longer to build a school, I say, embarrassed at having made a promise that was not meant, but promises like mine abound in every corner of his bleak world. Embarrassed is feeling ashamed. Abound is exist in large number, or bleak is empty. When the writer asks that will he join her school if she willed one, then Sahib says that he would join the writer's school. And after a few days, he runs up to the writer and asks whether her school is ready. The writer replied that it takes a long time to build a school. She felt ashamed at making a false promise. She had said that this is as a joke and had never intended to open a school. So she felt ashamed of herself. Sahib was not hurt because he was used to such false promises as they existed in large number in his empty world. He was surrounded by such false promises made by everyone around him. His world was empty as no promise made to Sahib was ever fulfilled. After months of knowing him, I ask him his name. Sahib Alam, he announces. He does not know what it means. If he knew its meaning, Lord of the universe, he would have a hard time believing it. Unaware of what his name represents, he roams the streets with his friends, an army of barefoot boys who appear like the morning birds and disappear at noon. Over the months, I have come to recognize each of them. He would have a hard time of believing it means it would be very difficult for him to believe that his name means the Lord of the universe. And barefoot, wearing nothing in feet, a chappal or papoose or shoes. The writer had known Sahib for a few months as she was watching him every day when he was coming for searching something precious from the garbage near her neighborhood. When she asked him his name, he replied as if he was making an announcement that his name was Sahib Alam. The writer thought that the boy did not know the meaning of his name, and if he came to know that his name meant Lord of the Universe, he would not be able to believe it. His name was just opposite to his life. He went around the streets with a group of friends. It was like an army of boys who did not wear any footwear. They appeared in the morning like the morning birds and disappeared at noon. The writer could recognize all of them as she had been seeing them for the past few months. Why aren't you wearing chappals? I asked one. My mother didn't bring them down from the shelf, he answered simply. One day, the writer asked one of them that why was he not wearing any footwear. The boy simply replied that his mother did not get them down from the shelf. As they were beyond his reach, he did not wear them. Even if she did, he will throw them off, adds another who is wearing shoes that do not match. When I comment on it, he shuffles his feet and says, "Nothing, I want shoes," says a third boy who has never owned a pair all his life. Traveling across the country, I have seen children walking barefoot in cities on blazed roads. It is not lack of money, but a tradition to stay barefoot is one explanation. I wonder if this is only an excuse to explain away a perpetual state of poverty. Suffers means slides them over each other. Excuse is a reason to justify a fault. Perpetual state of poverty is never-ending condition of being poor. Then, when the writer asked the boy that why he is not wearing chappal, then another boy who was wearing a different shoe in each foot said that even if his mother would have given him the footwear, he would have thrown it away. He meant that the boy was not wearing footwear because he did not want to wear. The writer asked the second boy the reason for wearing a different shoe in each foot. He did not reply and shuffles his feet as he tried to hide the shoes. A third boy spoke that he was eager to get a pair of shoes as he had never purchased one all his life. The writer takes the example of shoes to highlight the condition of these boys. They search the garbage dumps looking for such precious things. Then she further tells that as she traveled across the country, she had seen many children walking barefoot in the cities as well as in the villages. They reasoned that they were barefoot not due to lack of money to buy footwear, but being barefoot was a tradition for them. The writer wondered and concluded that the reason of it being a tradition was a mere excuse to hide the fact that they were so poor that they could not afford footwear. It means they are not having the lack of money, but they don't want to purchase the one as they want to show their condition is very pitiable and they can't afford to purchase a pair of shoes. Okay students, the next part of this chapter will continue our next video. Thank you.